My neighbor said, "Come over tonight. I need to show you something." The text came through at 9:47 on a Tuesday night, 4 words sitting alone in my messages with no greeting in front of them and no explanation behind them. Come over tonight. I need to show you something. I read it maybe 6 times before I even reached for my shoes, because there's a particular kind of silence in a text message that tells you something big is coming, and this one had that silence all over it. My name is Owen Hale. I'm 32, I build custom furniture out of a garage workshop 2 doors down from my apartment, and for an entire year I had convinced myself I understood exactly what kind of relationship I had with my neighbor. Friendly. Easy. Safe. The kind where you borrow eggs and return the bowl with something baked in it, and you never once let yourself ask what would happen if you knocked on that door wanting something more than sugar. Her name was Claire Bennett. Unit 4C, 1 floor above mine, a wedding photographer with a laugh that traveled straight through my ceiling on nights she watched something funny alone. I heard that laugh for 3 weeks before I ever learned her name, lying in bed wondering what kind of person sounded that happy with nobody watching. We finally met in the building's laundry room, which is either the least romantic place on earth or the most honest one, because there's nowhere to perform when you're both just trying to make a broken dryer take your quarters. I showed her the trick. She looked at me like I'd handed her state secrets. That was the beginning of everything, and neither of us called it that at the time. For months, it stayed easy. She knocked needing a screwdriver. I knocked needing to know if my smoke alarm's weird chirp was normal. She kept a spare key for the 2 times I locked myself out. We texted about nothing, a raccoon with strong opinions about the recycling bins, a coffee shop that got replaced by something calling itself a wellness bar. I noticed her long before I let myself admit it, and I filed the noticing away the way careful men do, the ones who've already been burned once and would rather protect a good friendship than risk it chasing something that might not survive being spoken aloud. 2 years earlier, a woman I loved had told me I was impossible to actually reach, which struck me as strange since I thought I'd given her everything I had. After that, I got careful. Careful people don't gamble good things on maybe. Claire had her own version of careful, and I only understood it in pieces. A long relationship that ended when the guy took a job 3 states away and just assumed she'd follow, like her whole life was optional scenery in his story. She didn't go. He went. She told me that once, sitting on my counter eating cereal from the box because she said real bowls felt like too much commitment on a Tuesday, and when she finished, she said, "I think I'm allergic to being an afterthought now." I never forgot that sentence. I also never did anything about how badly it made me want to be the opposite of an afterthought for her. So when her text landed that night, my first feeling wasn't excitement. It was worry. Something's wrong, I thought. A pipe burst. Someone's hurt. I texted back on my way and was up the stairs before I'd finished putting my shoes on properly. She opened the door before I even knocked, which meant she'd been standing right there, which meant this had been building in her for hours, maybe longer. She wore an old paint-splattered shirt, hair still damp, and she looked nervous in a way I'd genuinely never seen on her. Claire negotiated with vending machines and photographed screaming toddlers for a living. Nervous wasn't a language she usually spoke. "Hi," she said. "Hi. Everything okay? Your text made it sound like the building was on fire." "The building's fine." She stepped back to let me in. Her apartment smelled like vanilla candle and coffee gone cold, and underneath that, something I couldn't name yet but would later understand as the smell of a decision already made. "I need to show you something, and I need you to not say a single word until I'm finished. Can you do that?" Depends entirely on what it is. Owen. Fine. I can do that. She led me past her bedroom, past the bathroom towel she'd embroidered her own initials on because store towels lacked personality, and stopped outside the small second bedroom she used as her studio. She put her hand on the knob, paused there long enough that I almost asked if she'd changed her mind, then opened it. The wall across from the door was covered floor to ceiling in photographs. Home printed, some slightly overexposed, pinned in a grid that had clearly taken real thought over real time. And every single one had me in it. Me fixing her dryer, caught from behind. Me on the rooftop laughing at something out of frame. Me asleep on her couch during a movie I hadn't survived. Dozens of them, some taken in secret, some I remembered her calling for the aesthetic, which I now understood had been a cover story from the start. Claire. My voice came out rougher than I meant it to. What is this? You said you wouldn't say anything. I said that before I knew this existed. She wrapped her arms around herself in the doorway. I'm a photographer, Owen. My whole job is deciding what's worth keeping. About 2 months after the dryer trick, I photographed you laughing at something stupid on the front steps, and that night I looked at the picture and understood something I'd been avoiding for weeks. I wasn't taking pictures of my neighbor anymore. I was taking pictures of the person I couldn't stop looking at. The room went quiet enough that I could hear her old refrigerator humming down the hall, the same sound I'd heard through my ceiling for a year before I ever knew her name. So tonight, she said, the shrine had to become a confession, because I was tired of being brave only where nobody could see me fail. Something in my chest, locked carefully for 2 years, came loose all at once. I have a confession too, I said. I heard your laugh through my ceiling for 3 weeks before we ever met. I used to lie there wondering what kind of person laughed like that alone. When I finally met you in that laundry room, I remember thinking, this is going to be a problem, because I already liked you before I had a reason to. Her eyes lifted, wary and hopeful at once. You never said anything. Neither did you, apparently, for 2 months, while building an art installation about me. That got a startled, real laugh out of both of us, breaking some of the held breath in the room. I stepped closer, close enough that the photographs blurred into background behind her, the way things do when you're finally looking at the right thing. Why tonight, Claire? Why now, after months of saying nothing? Her jaw tightened slightly. Because I got a call this afternoon. A wedding job in Portland, 3 months, good money, the kind of opportunity I'd be an idiot to turn down professionally. She looked down, then back up. And my first thought wasn't the money. It was, I don't want to leave without telling Owen the truth, even if it changes nothing, because I refuse to keep running toward opportunities specifically to avoid feelings I haven't said out loud. When would you need to answer? Friday. 3 days. 3 days between discovering an entire secret archive of affection and her potentially boarding a flight to the other coast. Before I could say anything else, her phone buzzed on the desk behind her. She glanced at it, and something crossed her face that hadn't been there a second earlier. Not fear exactly. Recognition, the bad kind. Who is it? I asked. She hesitated, which was its own answer. Marcus. I knew that name. The ex. The one who'd taken the job 3 states away and just expected her to follow like her life didn't require an invitation of its own. He's still texting you? Not usually. He heard through a mutual friend that I might be taking the Portland job, and apparently he has opinions about it, since Portland is where he lives now. She set the phone face down without reading further. I haven't spoken to him in over a year. And now he's suddenly interested in your career decisions. Owen, don't. I'm not doing anything. You're doing the thing where your voice goes flat and careful. I know that voice. That's your defending someone who hasn't been attacked yet voice. She wasn't wrong, and that annoyed me more than it should have. I took a breath and softened it. I just don't love the timing. You confess 2 months of feelings to me, then in the same hour your ex resurfaces asking about the exact job that would put you back in his city. It's a coincidence. Maybe. It is. But she said it fast, the way people say things when they're also trying to convince themselves. I looked at the wall again, at all those small, ordinary moments she'd decided were worth keeping, and I made myself say the harder thing instead of the easy, wounded thing. I don't want to make this about him. I want to make it about what you actually want. So tell me honestly, is any part of taking that job about him? Claire was quiet for a long moment, longer than I was comfortable with. No, she finally said, steady this time. I applied for this job 6 weeks ago, before I knew he'd relocated there. I found out about his address the same day I found out I got the offer, and it made me hesitate, because I didn't want anyone, including myself, thinking I was chasing him back into my life through a side door. Her eyes met mine, clear now. I'm not. But I understand why it looks complicated from where you're standing. Thank you for saying that instead of getting defensive. I almost got defensive. Give me a second to feel proud of myself. That earned a real laugh from both of us again, and some of the tension in the room eased, though not all of it. Her phone buzzed a second time. She didn't look at it. You can check it, I said. I know. I'm choosing not to. She held my gaze. For the first time in a long time, choosing not to check a message from him feels like the actual brave thing, braver than the wall, honestly. I reached out and took her hand. I don't want you to turn down Portland because of a coincidence involving your ex. I don't want you to take it because of him either. I want you to make the decision for the career, and I want to know that whatever happens with us, it happens because we actually choose it, not because either of us is scared of an old ghost showing up in a new city. That's a lot of clarity for someone who just found an entire wall covered in his own face. I've had 2 years of practice not saying things. Apparently that built up pressure. She smiled, but there was still something unsettled behind it. There's one more thing I have to tell you, and I should have led with it, but I got distracted by my own confession. My stomach tightened slightly. Okay. Marcus texted because our mutual friend told him about the wall. She winced, watching my face carefully. Not the specifics. Just that I'd, quote, apparently gotten obsessed with my neighbor. He thinks it's funny. He thinks it's beneath me. He said, and I'm quoting exactly, so you traded a man with a real career for a guy who sands furniture in a garage. Something cold moved through me, the specific, familiar sting of being measured by someone who'd never met me and had already decided I came up short. And what did you say back? Nothing yet. I wanted to tell you before I answered him, because whatever I say next, I want it to be about defending you to someone who doesn't know either of us, not about proving something to myself. I sat with that for a second, and then I said the only honest thing I had. Claire, you don't owe me a defense. If Marcus wants to think building furniture is beneath something, that's a reflection of what he values, not what you're worth or what I'm worth. But I do want to know, does his opinion actually move anything in you? No, she said, without pausing this time, no hesitation at all in it. It made me angry on your behalf, and a little angry at myself for even telling you, because some old, stupid part of me still flinches when he uses that tone, like he's still allowed to grade my choices. She squeezed my hand. But it doesn't move me. It just reminded me why I stopped answering him in the first place. Then answer him now. Whatever you want to say. She picked up the phone, typed something quickly, and turned it toward me before sending. I'm not discussing my personal life with you. Please don't contact me again unless it's about something that actually involves both of us, which this doesn't. She hit send, then powered the phone off entirely and set it face down on the desk like she was closing a door on it physically. There. Now can we go back to the part where you tell me you liked me before you had a reason to? I already said that part. Say it again. I want it on the record twice, in case I need to replay it during Portland. I laughed and pulled her closer, until there wasn't really distance left between us worth measuring. Claire Bennett, I don't want you to go to Portland because you're scared of what happens if you stay, and I don't want you to stay because you're scared of what happens with Marcus in that city. I want you to go because it's genuinely the right move for your career, and I want you to come home because there's something real here worth coming back to. Not because I asked you to shrink your life around mine. Because we both actually choose it. Her eyes went bright, and this time she didn't try to hide it. That's a very specific speech for someone who claims he's bad with words. Apparently the pressure builds and then it all comes out at once. She stepped in until there was no space left at all. Ask me properly, then. The way you'd ask if you weren't scared of the answer. I felt my pulse do something ridiculous, something I hadn't let myself feel in 2 years of careful distance from everyone. Will you go to Portland, do the job, be brilliant at it, ignore every text from a man who has no idea what he's talking about, and come home to something real with me when it's done? Not to prove anything. Just to actually find out what this is instead of photographing it from a safe distance. Yes, she said, no hesitation left in her voice at all. I'm terrified. I want it anyway. I kissed her then, in that small office surrounded by a year of secret photographs, steady instead of rushed, the kind of kiss that arrives after months of pretending not to notice. When we pulled back, she rested her forehead against mine. For the record, she whispered, I'm keeping the wall. Obviously. I'm also adding to it. Starting tonight. I expected nothing less from a woman who apparently surveils her neighbors for emotional research purposes. The photography was just the excuse, she said. You were always the actual subject. 3 days later I drove her to the airport, and the goodbye felt entirely different from every ordinary one we traded in the hallway over the past year, because this one had honesty sitting inside it instead of careful distance. At the gate, she turned back once, camera bag against her side. I'll send pictures, she said. Of Portland? Of anything worth keeping. That's become my whole thing lately. The 3 months apart were not easy. Anyone who calls long-distance romantic has never done the actual math of time zones at midnight or watched a call drop mid-sentence during the 1 free hour you both had. But we talked most nights. She sent printed photographs of a city I'd never seen through her eyes, and about 6 weeks in, she mentioned, almost in passing, that Marcus had shown up uninvited at a shoot she was working near his neighborhood, trying to catch up. She told me she'd stayed exactly 5 minutes, professional and cold, then left without giving him the conversation he clearly wanted. She didn't hide it from me. She told me the same night it happened, which mattered more than anything Marcus could have said or done. I could have not told you, she said on the phone that night. I could have decided it wasn't a big deal and just left it out. Why didn't you? Because the whole point of that wall was that I was done hiding things I was scared would change how you saw me. I'm not going back to that. Not for him, not for anyone. When she came home, she didn't knock. She still had the spare key. I heard the door open downstairs, then fast footsteps on the stairs, and when I opened my door she was already there, bag dropped somewhere behind her, cheeks flushed from the cold. "Hi," she said. "Hi. How was Portland?" "Good. Productive. Lonely in exactly the way I expected." She stepped closer. "Also, I need to show you something. Please tell me it's not another wall. Better than a wall." She pulled out a small, slightly creased photograph, the two of us laughing in her studio doorway the night of the confession, the secret wall visible behind us in the frame. "I want this printed big. Framed somewhere we'll actually see it every day, not hidden in a room nobody visits." A year later we combined our two apartments into one, mostly meaning I moved upstairs into hers because her light was better for the studio and I could work from anywhere with a table and coffee. The wall came with us, moved photograph by photograph, and it kept growing, both of us adding to it now, no longer a secret confession but a shared, ongoing record of an ordinary life that had somehow become the most extraordinary thing either of us had. 2 years after that Tuesday night text, I proposed in that same small office, holding a ring instead of a screwdriver for once. Claire looked at the wall, then at me, then back at the wall. "You couldn't have done this somewhere more traditional?" "This is where the truth started," I said. "Seemed wrong to ask anywhere else." She said yes before I finished the question properly, which she still denies to this day, insisting she was simply an efficient decision-maker. Marcus never texted again. Neither of us ever wondered why. Now, when people ask how we got together, Claire tells them her neighbor heard her laughing through the ceiling for 3 weeks before they ever met. I tell them she kept a secret wall of photographs of me for 2 months before admitting any of it, and that the bravest thing she ever did wasn't taking those pictures, it was showing them to me instead of quietly running toward a job in another city to avoid the truth. Both stories are true. Neither is the whole truth. The whole truth is that sometimes the person worth noticing has been right above you the entire time, laughing through the ceiling, and all it takes is one honest night, one open door, and the courage to finally say what the photographs already knew. What would you have done if your neighbor asked you to come over and then showed you an entire wall of secret photos proving they'd been in love with you for months? And have you ever found out someone had been quietly caring about you long before either of you said it out loud? Tell me your story in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.